Clifton Powell recently sat down with Comedy Hype and said there's two roles he'll never play. One, a homosexual character, and two, what he called a coon, which in the black community pretty much means a turncoat, someone who betrays their people. And listen, I'm not here to throw labels. I'm here to talk about logic, because when I heard that, I thought, wait a minute, something about that doesn't add up. Now, Clifton Powell, he's a seasoned actor, veteran of the game. He's played a lot of comedic roles, and he's kind of known throughout the black community, especially in a lot of films, as being the villain. But in this Comedy Hype interview, he said there's two lines that he won't cross, which are homosexual and a coon, right? This is for educational purpose, so I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. I'm just repeating what he said. And for clarity, a coon is somebody who betrays the black race, usually for approval from other races, right? So that's technically what coon means. Now, here's where his logic falters. It's perfectly fine to set personal boundaries. Every actor has the right to say no to roles that don't feel authentic. Like let's just say, for example, you are a person who is homosexual and you usually stick to homosexual roles and you don't feel quite comfortable playing in a straight role. So that's fine. Or some women refuse, for whatever reason, may refuse to take on roles that require sex scenes or nudity. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? But let's really think about this. Clifton Powell, specifically, it's okay to play an abuser, a murderer, a drug dealer, but a gay character, that's just off limits, which is fine. It's fine, right? But we're talking about morality, right? We're talking about morality, right? So let's just say, hypothetically, I had to choose my child being a career criminal or being gay, right? I'm choosing gay probably 100 times out of 100. That's pretty much to show you how logically it really doesn't hold up. So that's just my point of view. Okay, so 3, there's this thing within the black community, especially within film, is a fear of typecasting. In other words, Cat Williams has spoken about this. Demon Wilson, this is a guy who played in Sanford and Son. He also spoke about this, and I guess Ari Spears spoke in support of this, but it was in response to a Vlad TV question that brought up the whole thing about black men being in dresses, right? Because this was a big conversation a few years back. So I think Powell's fear of being typecasted, hey, look, it's a real thing. So I'm not going to say that it's not. But I think it's more so, hey, once you go ahead and you take the gay role, Hollywood tries to keep you in that box, and you become then the gay black guy, right? And to a degree, I understand that fear. So that it's not without merit, the fear that he may have. I don't know. Because in Hollywood, there's still these rigid ideas about masculinity, and a lot of people are kind of afraid how they'll be perceived if they step out of those lines and they kind of take on these roles. And I think the deeper issue is specifically with people within his generation, people that come from his generation, is that this is just my theory. I'm not saying this is what he thinks. This is just my personal theory, what I believe, right? I think a big part of Clifton Powell's stance is that he could kind of hang his hat on saying, I never played that role. I never played a punk. I never played a sissy or anything soft, right? And these terms, these are toxic terms. They've been around the black community for many, many years. specifically to kind of police what masculinity looks like, or how it's supposed to be conducted. You know, how you're supposed to conduct yourself as a man. Anything outside of that box or within those lines is considered those terms. So I think what Powell is trying to do is protect the image of whatever that masculinity looks like, right? That image. So I don't think it's logic behind what he's saying. I think it's more so cultural conditioning. Because think about it. You've played abusers, right? You've played drug dealers. You've played the villain in some of the most hateful roles in film. But somehow playing a gay character crosses the line. It's just logically, it doesn't add up. In my opinion, that's more so a fear of perception. How people will look at you. You know what I'm saying? When you go around your homeboys, whoever's still around, how will they look? How will they look at you? You know. Also, the fear of the African American and the traditional manhood within the black community. We've seen this. There's even been documentaries about this that based on this kind of fear that as a black man, your masculinity will be stripped from you, and you will be some kind of puppet from Hollywood, right? So I think that's largely what Powell's kind of leaning into. So I'm not calling him anything. I'm not labeling him anything. If you notice, I haven't used the H word, because sometimes when people hear that, they naturally become tense or defensive. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying if you strip away the emotion, you look at it objectively, that pride in saying I never played that role is less about the craft of acting and more about image. And it's kind of like an outdated idea of what it means to be a man. So the bigger conversation is, it's not just Powell. You know, as I mentioned earlier, Demon Wilson from Sanford and Son said similar things in interviews. But then you look at actors such as Mahershala Ali, Trevante Rhodes, and Moonlight. They kind of took on these roles that were a little bit different from tradition, and they had pretty much these performances that won awards. And I remember a lot of people at the time was kind of like, I don't know, man. This film right here or whatever. But more so, that's more so it leans into the stuff that we were talking about earlier in this conversation. But do I look at Mahershala Ali as less of a man because he played a role outside of what the hegemonic masculine role is, the typical, showing you what a real man is, quote unquote? No, I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think he's about to do something with Blade, I believe. He's a phenomenal actor. I don't look at him any different. I don't think it has any kind of stain on his career. So here's where I land. Integrity is personal, and I respect anybody setting boundaries for themselves. That's their right, but let's call it what it is. This isn't logic. It's emotion. It's conditioning. Saying I don't want to play that role is honest, but saying I won't play that role because it's on the same level as betraying your own community or betraying my people, that's where the reasoning falls apart. And the beauty of approaching this logically without throwing out words like the H word, I did use the word toxic, but it makes you stop and think. You don't have to shame anyone. It's kind of like the logic speaks for itself. So that's my channel. Brian's Discerning Thoughts. I got tongue twisted. If you like this video, like, comment, or subscribe. And I'm out. Peace.